Most of us spend our lives wearing masks, performing roles for approval, for safety, for survival. But the tragedy is this: the more you hide who you truly are, the more invisible you become to the world and to yourself. Today, we will uncover the secret Jung understood, how to stop hiding and finally get paid for being who you really are. There is a truth that few dare to confront, though it governs every interaction we have with the world. From childhood, you were taught that survival depends on wearing a mask, not the physical kind, but the invisible one that adapts to expectation, that bends to approval, that seeks shelter in belonging. This mask is what I call the persona, the face you present to society. And though it has protected you, though it has secured your place among others, it has also betrayed you. Because while the mask has earned you acceptance, it has cost you authenticity. And without authenticity, you will never know your true worth. Think for a moment about the roles you have played. Perhaps you were the obedient child who learned quickly which behaviors brought praise and which ones brought shame. Perhaps you were the student who discovered that curiosity mattered less than conformity, that asking the wrong question was punished, while repeating the right answer was rewarded. And perhaps later, you became the worker, the colleague, the citizen who knows what to say, how to act, and when to remain silent. At each stage of life, the mask grew thicker, more convincing, until even you began to forget that it was only a mask. The tragedy of the persona is that it succeeds too well. It wins you friends, employment, recognition, and yet all of these rewards are not given to you, but to the mask you wear. And so, deep within, a quiet despair grows, for you sense that you are unseen, unheard, unvalued, not because the world is blind, but because you have never revealed what is truly yours to show. When a man lives entirely through the persona, his life becomes a performance. He says the right things, he plays the part, but there is no life in it. He becomes, in essence, a shadow actor on a stage, moving according to a script written by others. His gestures may win applause, his words may win approval, but none of it nourishes his soul. He is starving in the midst of plenty, because the nourishment he requires is not recognition, but authenticity. To live through a mask is to live in exile from oneself. It is to be a stranger in your own skin, to distrust your own impulses, to silence your own voice. And this is why so many feel empty despite outward success. They have followed the rules, they have worn the right masks, and yet the reward is hollow. Because no matter how much the persona achieves, the self, the true essence of who you are, remains hidden, neglected, suffocated. And here lies the great paradox. The very mask that wins you approval ensures that you will never be truly valued. For how can anyone reward the person they have never met? They reward only the imitation, the performance, the facade. And so the man behind the mask goes unpaid, unseen, unrecognized, not because he lacks worth, but because he has traded his worth for approval. Consider how many of your daily choices are dictated not by your true desires, but by what the mask demands. You bite your tongue instead of speaking the truth. You accept work that bores you instead of pursuing what ignites you. You smile when you wish to scream. You say yes when your soul cries no. Each compromise may seem small, but over years they accumulate, and soon you find that you have built a life not for yourself, but for your mask. A life that pays you in wages, perhaps, but bankrupts you of meaning. The persona is not evil, it is necessary. We cannot live in society without some form of adaptation. The mask allows us to function, to collaborate, to exist among others. But when the mask becomes fused to the face, when the performance becomes the identity, the tragedy begins. You are no longer playing a role, you are imprisoned in it. And the longer you remain, the more alien your true self becomes. There is another cost to this hidden existence: energy. To maintain the mask requires constant vigilance. You must always remember who you are supposed to be, what you are supposed to say, how you are supposed to act. It is a draining task, and it leaves little energy for creation, for passion, for growth. This is why so many feel exhausted, not merely by work, but by the act of pretending. The fatigue of living a false life is far greater than the fatigue of honest labor, and yet you continue to hide. Why? Because the world has convinced you that your truth is dangerous. You fear rejection, ridicule, and punishment. You imagine that if you revealed your strangeness, your flaws, your wild originality, you would be cast out. But here is the irony. The very thing you fear revealing is often the very thing the world needs most from you. People are drawn not to the mask, but to the rare individual who dares to live without one. You must understand this society is not starving for conformity. It is drowning in it. What it hungers for is authenticity, courage, individuality. And the person who dares to remove the mask becomes a beacon. Others recognize themselves in his honesty. They are moved by his truth. They are inspired by his courage. And in this way, he is valued not for the mask he wears, but for the self he embodies. So the question is not whether you can keep wearing the mask. You can, and you will be rewarded with small comforts, small recognitions, and small wages. The question is whether you are willing to step beyond it, to risk exposure, to risk rejection, in exchange for the only thing worth having the chance to be truly seen, truly valued, truly paid for who you are. Because the moment you step out from behind the persona, you stop playing the role of an extra in someone else's play, and you begin to write your own script. The audience may not all approve, but those who matter will respond, and their response will not be applause for a performance, but recognition of a truth. There exists within you a force you have been taught to fear, to deny, to repress. It is the part of you do not want to acknowledge, the impulses you have silenced, the desires you have buried, the anger, the envy, the strangeness, the hunger for power, the raw creativity, the instincts that do not fit into the polite image you show the world. This hidden force is what I call the shadow, and while most live their lives running from it, few ever realize that the shadow they resist is not their enemy, but their greatest source of wealth. Think of how society has shaped you from birth. Every time you expressed something that did not fit into the approved pattern, you were corrected. When you were too loud, they told you to be quiet. When you were too curious, they told you not to ask. When you were too wild, they told you to calm down. Slowly, piece by piece, everything unapproved, everything inconvenient, everything different was pushed into the dark corners of your psyche. And you learned to hide it, to push it away, to pretend it was not there. This collection of rejected parts became your shadow. But what if I told you that inside this shadow lies your hidden genius? That the things you are ashamed of, the things you conceal, are often the very qualities that make you extraordinary? Consider the artist who hides his imagination because he was told it was foolish. Consider the speaker who hides his passion because he was told it was too much. Consider the thinker who hides his unconventional ideas because he was told they were dangerous. The world convinces us to bury the very gold it most desperately needs. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the unlived life. It is potential waiting for expression. Yes, it carries darkness, but within that darkness is raw power. A man who integrates his shadow does not become dangerous in the sense of destructive. He becomes dangerous in the sense of unstoppable. He has access to energies others have denied. He can channel aggression into determination, fear into wisdom, pain into art. What others suppress and lose, he reclaims and transforms. Look around, and you will see how most people live in poverty of the soul, not because they lack talent, but because they exile half of themselves. They cling to their persona, their socially approved face, and in doing so they abandon the treasure chest of originality within. They polish the mask while the shadow waits, filled with riches, untouched, unexplored. This is why so many live lives of quiet desperation. They sense that there is more inside them than they are allowed to show. They feel the tension between who they pretend to be and what they know themselves to be. They dream of breaking free, of expressing the forbidden, of stepping into their strangeness. but fear holds them back. And so the treasure rots in the dark, unused. The world does not reward suppression, it rewards transformation. The individual who dares to open the lid of his shadow and look inside discovers what no one else can offer. For no two shadows are alike. The peculiarities, the contradictions, the suppressed energies of your life are yours alone. When you bring them into the light, you create something original, something authentic, something the world has never seen before. And this is where true value lies. Consider how wealth is created in the material world. It is not found by copying what already exists. It is found by uncovering resources hidden from sight, oil deep in the ground, gold buried in mountains, ideas unthought, art unseen. The shadow is the same. It is the mine of the soul. And while most are content to live on the surface, digging only where others have dug before, the rare individual who descends into his own depths uncovers riches that cannot be imitated. But this descent requires courage, for the shadow is not only treasure, it is also trial. When you open it, you will confront the things you least want to admit about yourself. You will see your selfishness, your envy, your capacity for cruelty. It is not pleasant to face, and this is why most refuse the journey. They would rather maintain the mask of innocence than face the truth of their complexity. But without this confrontation, the treasure remains sealed. The paradox is that by denying your shadow, you do not escape it. You become possessed by it. The aggression you suppress turns into passive resentment. The creativity you deny turns into bitterness. The sexuality you hide turns into shame. The originality you repress turns into conformity. What you push down does not disappear, it leaks out in distorted, destructive forms. But when you face it directly, when you claim it, you gain mastery. The shadow becomes a servant instead of a saboteur, and when it serves you, it serves the world. Think of the innovators, the leaders, the artists who changed history. They were not the ones who lived politely within the confines of their masks. They were the ones who dared to reveal the parts others hid. They drew from their shadows and turned what was forbidden into what was revolutionary. The anger of injustice became movements. The strangeness of vision became art. The defiance of convention became science. All progress, all originality, springs not from the persona, but from the shadow. You must ask yourself, what am I hiding? What qualities have I locked away because someone told me they were unacceptable? What impulses do I deny because they frighten me? Inside those very places is the material of greatness. It is not in what is already visible, but in what you have concealed. And the moment you begin to reclaim it, you begin to tap into a power few ever touch. The shadow is the dark well from which true individuality is drawn. It is the reservoir of all you have repressed, and therefore all that remains untapped. While others polish their masks and compete on the surface, you have the chance to go inward, to descend, to mine the depths of your own being. And what you bring back from that descent is not only wealth for yourself, but a gift for the world. What is it that truly gives a man value? What is it that causes others to trust him, to follow him, to exchange their time, their attention, even their money for what he offers? At first glance, you may believe it is skill, knowledge, or cleverness, but beneath these things lies something far more fundamental: authenticity. For in a world where imitation is endless, the rarest and most precious currency is the individual who dares to be real. When I say authenticity, I do not mean the shallow display of quirks, the performance of uniqueness that so many attempt. Authenticity is not another mask, it is the absence of one. It is the courage to show yourself as you are, unpolished, unedited, unprotected by the armor of the persona. It is the willingness to reveal your genuine thoughts, your true emotions, your unrepeatable essence. And though this may seem dangerous, it is this very danger that creates trust. Think of it, trust is the foundation of every exchange in human life. Money itself is nothing but an agreement, a symbol that one man can depend on the promise of another. And what is the root of trust? It is the sense that the other is real, consistent, true to himself. When you encounter a person who hides nothing, who speaks plainly, who embodies what he believes, you cannot help but feel drawn to him. You know where you stand. You know that his words carry weight. You know that you are dealing not with a mask, but with a man. The world is saturated with imitation. People study trends, copy strategies, and replicate what is already proven. They create images designed to appeal, words designed to persuade, behaviors designed to fit in. But beneath the surface, it is all the same. Endless repetition, endless mimicry, endless masks. And in this sea of sameness, authenticity shines like gold, because while imitation is cheap and abundant, the real is rare, and what is rare always commands value. Consider how people respond to honesty. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, even when it challenges or unsettles, it is respected. You may not always like the man who speaks plainly, but you cannot dismiss him. His words cut through the noise because they carry the weight of the authentic. In contrast, the words of the imitator, the pretender, the mask wearer vanish into the background unremembered because there is nothing behind them. Authenticity is not only a moral quality, it is an economic one. Those who dare to live authentically create value that cannot be copied. An original painting is priceless not because of its material, but because it is one of a kind. A genuine idea transforms industries not because it follows rules, but because it breaks them. A leader who embodies his convictions inspires others not by technique, but by presence. In each case, authenticity generates trust, and trust generates value. To be authentic is to become irreplaceable. Anyone can copy the surface of your persona, but no one can copy your inner essence. Your voice, your vision, your way of seeing the world, these cannot be manufactured. They belong only to you. And when you express them without fear, you create something that no competition can erase. You become not another interchangeable part of the machine, but the machine's only source of originality. This is why those who live authentically attract opportunities, followers, and wealth. It is not because they chase trends more quickly or polish their masks more brightly. It is because they embody something people long for, the real. In a time of artificiality, the real becomes priceless. People pay not for perfection, but for presence. They pay not for copies, but for originals. They pay not for what you think they want, but for who you truly are. But authenticity comes at a price. It requires vulnerability. It demands that you risk rejection, that you show sides of yourself that others may not approve. It asks that you trust your own voice, even when it trembles, that you stand by your vision, even when it is unpopular. Most are unwilling to pay this price. They prefer the safety of the mask, the comfort of blending in, and so they sell themselves cheaply, competing endlessly with others who are just as artificial, racing to the bottom in a marketplace of imitation. Yet those who choose differently, those who refuse to hide, discover that authenticity pays dividends beyond imagination. Because once people see the real you, they cannot forget it. Once they sense your honesty, they remember it. Once they experience your originality, they return to it. Authenticity creates loyalty, and loyalty is a form of wealth more powerful than money. The authentic man carries a different presence. He does not need to persuade by force, because his being persuades by itself. He does not need to clamor for attention, because his presence commands it. He does not need to manipulate, because his truth resonates. He becomes magnetic, not because he seeks to be, but because authenticity is magnetic by nature. And the irony is this: what feels most dangerous to reveal is often what makes you most valuable. The world does not need another polished mask. It needs your rawness, your imperfection, your story, your unique angle of vision. The cracks in your being are not weaknesses. They are openings through which others see themselves reflected. This is why authenticity binds people together, why it builds tribes, why it creates movements. People follow those who remind them of their own humanity, not those who pretend to have none. Authenticity is not something you add to yourself. It is what remains when you strip away everything false. It is not a performance, but a return to the self you once were before the masks, before the persona, before the world convinced you to hide. And when you return to this self, when you dare to live from it openly, you discover that you already possess the most valuable currency on earth, the power of being real. Every choice you make has a cost: to speak or to remain silent, to reveal or to conceal, to step forward as yourself or to retreat behind the mask. Most believe that hiding is safe, that by blending in, by conforming, by suppressing what makes them different, they avoid danger. But the truth is that hiding is not free, it has a price. And this price is often greater than the one demanded by truth. Consider what happens when you hide. Outwardly, you may appear secure. You say the things others wish to hear. You play the roles expected of you. You avoid conflict by never revealing your true thoughts. You fit neatly into the machinery of society. But inwardly, a slow erosion begins. For every time you suppress your voice, a part of you withers. Every time you betray your own instinct, your trust in yourself weakens. Every time you silence your truth, your vitality diminishes. The world may applaud your compliance, but your soul mourns your absence. This is the hidden cost of hiding, the steady draining of your life force. It is like living on borrowed energy, constantly diverting it to maintain appearances, to hold the mask in place, to censor what is real, and this constant effort is exhausting. Many wonder why they are so tired, so unmotivated, so numb. They believe the problem lies in external pressures: too much work, too little rest, too many responsibilities. But often the deeper cause is the burden of concealment. Nothing is heavier than the weight of an unexpressed self. Hiding also costs you an opportunity. For the doors that matter do not open for masks. They are open to the truth. When you hide, you may secure a small wage, a modest approval, a fragile sense of safety. But you deny yourself the larger possibilities that only come when you dare to be seen. The connections that transform your life, the opportunities that elevate you, the wealth that is born of originality, all of these belong not to the mask, but to the authentic self behind it. By hiding, you protect yourself from rejection, but you also protect yourself from recognition. And the cruelest irony is this: the approval you gain by hiding is never truly yours. People may admire the role you play, but they do not admire you. They cannot, because they do not see you. Their respect is for the performance, not for the performer. And so you may gather applause, but it will never satisfy. It is like eating air. You may fill your days with the illusion of success, but deep down you know it is hollow. The mask is praised, but the man behind it remains invisible. Now consider the opposite path, the path of truth. To reveal yourself, to live authentically, is not without risk. It demands courage, for it strips away the shield of conformity. It exposes you to rejection, to misunderstanding, to criticism. Some will not approve, some will mock, some will walk away, and yet despite this, truth pays a greater reward than hiding ever can. For when you live authentically, you may lose the approval of the crowd, but you gain something infinitely more valuable: the recognition of those who matter, those who see you as you are, those who resonate with your truth, those who value what only you can offer. These are the ones who appear when you reveal yourself. And their recognition is not shallow, not fragile, not conditional. It is deep, lasting, and real. They are drawn not to the mask, but to the essence. And from this recognition comes opportunity, connection, wealth, and meaning. The reward of truth is not only external, it is also internal. When you speak your truth, you begin to rebuild trust with yourself. You feel alive, awake, aligned. Energy that was once wasted on concealment is released into creation. Vitality flows back into your veins. Life feels less like a performance and more like a participation in something. Even challenges feel different, for you face them as yourself, not as an actor in disguise. The reward of truth also lies in freedom. Hiding makes you a prisoner, bound by the expectations of others, trapped in the narrow confines of what is acceptable. But truth liberates. When you no longer need to perform, when you no longer need to remember which mask to wear, you are free to act, to create, to speak without fear. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty, it is the presence of authenticity. It is important to see clearly. Both hiding and truth carry a price. But while the price of truth is paid once, in the discomfort of exposure, the price of hiding is paid daily in the slow death of your own spirit. Hiding costs you energy, opportunity, recognition, freedom, and the trust you have in yourself. Truth costs you rejection, misunderstanding, and sometimes discomfort. But what you gain from truth is far greater than what you risk. You must decide which price you are willing to pay. To hide is to remain safe but small, invisible, disconnected from your deepest self. To live authentically is to risk being wounded, but to discover the only wealth that matters, the wealth of a life that is truly your own. And while hiding feels easier in the moment, it is the truth that rewards you with power, presence, and meaning. Do you want me to now combine all 4 expanded keynotes into a single continuous script with the hook and intro at the beginning, so you'll have the full-length Jung style motivational speech ready to record? We have walked together through the masks you wear, through the shadows you repress, through the rare currency of authenticity, and through the great cost of hiding versus the reward of truth. And now you must see what has always been before you. Life is not asking you to become someone else. Life is demanding that you finally become yourself. The persona may win you a place in society, but only the self can win you a life of meaning. The shadow may frighten you, but within its darkness lies the gold of your originality. Authenticity may seem dangerous, but it is the only wealth that cannot be stolen, copied, or diminished. And while hiding drains you of life, truth breathes life back into you. The time has come to stop living for approval, to stop disguising your essence, to stop betraying yourself for comfort. The world does not need another imitation. It does not need another mask. It does not need another silent soul fading into invisibility. What it needs is you, unmasked, unafraid, unrepeatable. So step into the light of your own being, speak with your own voice, live from your own truth, and you will find that not only does life reward such courage, it has been waiting for it all along.